Hey everyone, welcome to another video. My name is Art Supplies and today I'm going to be showing you exactly how to make your bass translate across onto smaller speakers. Now, in today's society, it is super important to make sure that all of our music is translating across speakers, especially because nowadays so many of us listen out of our mobile phones, out of laptop speakers, small speakers especially. We do it all the time, so it's really important to make sure that if you've got a funky as bass line, that if you're listening on a massive system, it sounds amazing, but if you're listening on a mobile phone, it just really loses the essential character of the bass line. So let's start by jumping into the Ableton and I'll show you this plugin. Now, I've got a loop here from Dave Winnell's sample pack. He has a loop in G. Let's just listen to that straight out. Plain and simple. Let's grab the plugin. Now the plugin is called MAXXBASS and it's from Waves. So let's put it on here. This is the plugin here itself. Now, let's go through a few of the parameters first and foremost. You've got your dynamic ratio here in terms of how much it's compressing it, and think about it in the same way as a compressor with your threshold, pulling it down, and then the response there as well. Play around with those numbers and you can hear a little bit of difference. But basically, personally, I don't touch anything necessarily. I come in and just load the PA default, and that gives me this second band here. Now, as you can see in terms of frequency, that's sitting mainly between 64 up to possibly maybe 400, 500 hertz, tailing off that way, but the main frequencies were sitting around 200 hertz in here. Normally, this plugin, you're not going to hear any difference, or the idea is not to hear too much difference, especially when you're listening on the big speakers or the system. When you're listening on a phone, or if you can do it out of your laptop speakers, you might actually get a little bit more of a difference between the two, and that's hopefully going to help your bass stand out without sort of pushing it too hard in the mix and muddying up everything else. Now, this little band here gets controlled over here, the max bass slider. You've got the input volume and the original bass volume, which is over this cutoff, and then the max bass volume. So we can just push this up and down to suit. So let's start nice and low, and we'll loop over this loop and bring this in. And the idea is you want to sit it just underneath the original bass, so it's not taking over, but it's adding those subtle harmonics in the higher ranges of the bass. So let's do it. So, depending on what you're listening to this video on, you may be able to have heard a difference. Now, I'm in my studio on some speakers and I can't hear too much of a difference. It's muddying a little bit because we're clipping a little bit hardcore here. What I might do is turn the bass down. Let's bring it down, say 6 dB. Have another listen. So you could hear in there when I really pushed it and it went above, it was like pushing those upper harmonics and peaking out of the, what was clipping it. So, and especially earlier it was clipping, we saw that. So we brought it down, it's now not clipping, it now sits a little bit cleaner and the max bass sits underneath the top there. What I'm going to do is show you the difference between on and off now on a frequency spectrum or a analyzer, and we can see the difference. So let's just bring up an EQ8 from Ableton, turn off the bass there and turn this off, and then we'll turn it on. All right, now you could see a tiny bit of difference. There was a little bit more fattening in that region around 200 to 250, sort of pushing those upper harmonics. You also heard it sort of what I would call get beefier, also a little bit maybe muddier. So you've got to be careful as to how much you're pushing and what frequencies are coming out when you do it. So really play around with the different parameters. That's just a simple way of doing it straight out to get a little bit of upper harmonics. If you really want to have a dive into all of the way this works, I'll link the official sort of walkthrough video tutorial that I learned how to work this thing through. It's really, really helpful. But this is just your quick, easy way of slapping it on and knowing that you're going to get some translation. Make sure you do the test as well between the different speakers. I'll let you do that as well on this video. I'll also link in the description the plugin buy link if you want to get this plugin from Waves. There's always cheap deals, Black Friday, that kind of stuff, so jump on that. Otherwise, that's a simple way of translating your bass across speakers. If you liked it, hit like. If you got any thoughts, jump in the comments, hit subscribe, and see you next time.